You know, this is Dr. Feldy. You're listening to It Came from the Radio, and we're going to be discussing the film My Life with Asperger's with the filmmakers Juliana Brudek and George Steeves, who this is also about. Now, quick explanation log line of the film. The film follows George Steeves, a queer man living with Asperger's syndrome, as he turns his challenges into artistic triumph. Known for being a nine-time American Idol reject, George transforms his experiences into the acclaimed one-person show Magic 8 Ball, My Life with Asperger's, directed by former Motown backup singers Penny Wilson and Krista Wilson. George's journey from bullied outsider to award-winning performer is a moving testament, it is, to self-validation and creativity. His story resonates with audiences, culminating his defiant onstage declaration, "I don't need to be validated by American Idol. I validate it." Over 5 years, the documentary captures George's transformation through candid interviews, behind-the-scenes footage, which I enjoyed, and live performances, offering viewers an intimate look into the life of someone embracing their uniqueness despite adversity. Welcome. And first question, what inspired this? Why did you have to make this for 5 years? What compelled you to do this?
Well, this was a whole 8 year labor of love here that started
Ah,
with simultaneously a one-man show and a documentary feature film to go in tandem with it. And I started on the one-man show first. I had written a show called Magic 8 Ball, My Life with Asperger's. I
mhm.
brought it to my friends Penny and Crystal Wilson, who are a singing duo, and they put on live shows all around Los Angeles. And I initially had wanted them to just be producers and help me fill the house. But they took on the
Um,
material with me and they developed it with me, and we put it up at the 2017 Hollywood Fringe Festival. And as for the documentary with Juliana here, I had had a couple of different potential directors come and go from the documentary already. I think there was already about four of them in between 2016 to
oh,
2018.
wow.
And just when I was ready to give up and let it go, Jules and I met by chance through mutual friends. And I was telling her about my journey and what I was getting ready to embark on. And she was like, "Oh, well, I would love to do a documentary." And then the stars just aligned from there. And Jules followed me as I took the show from California to rural Virginia, where I grew up as a child in the 90s, to Edinburgh, all the way to New York City. And along the way, Jules was right there to capture everything. What it was like to create the show at Penny and Crystal, the good moments, the moments where we fought, we didn't see eye to eye. We have those honest moments in there. You get to not only see me tell my story, but it was important for me to lift up other people on the spectrum as well. And we hear their stories, and you see just how it's not just a one type here. It's not a one size fits all spectrum. You hear from men of color, women, people of all ages, all different walks of life, people from across the pond, just all different types that all we all unite because of us having Asperger's or being on the autism spectrum.
Is there any commonality, or would you say there's like maybe five characteristics you could name that connect you and all the people you just named? Is there some type of general stereotype or sensitivity? Like I have a sensitivity to light. I'm just wondering if you could just off the bat be like, what's the difference between the Asperger's group and the neurotypical group? Just right off the bat.
That's
Well,
awesome. It's a great question, Dr. Felding. Go
Thank
ahead,
you.
Joe.
oh, I was going to say, when Jules and I were making this in 2018, one of the common languages that I was discovering was stimming and how it comes out in different ways. I would work different parts of my feet or my legs or my arms for different kinds of stimming, or I would do this like if I have an itch, I'll scratch like this and I'll scratch up. I had all these different kinds of stims that I would do. So that's stimming is definitely one thing when it comes to an autism language that
Mm.
I feel that many of us have. Particular passions and focuses about certain topics. When I was a kid, it was about cars. When I got older, it was music, movies, and television. The joke I like to say was I had the gay autistic experience. Just swap trains for Spice Girls, and that was me.
Ah, that's funny. That's funny.
And
Okay,
so
so going.
that's definitely a language of people on the spectrum is the particular focus on
Mhm.
passions. I struggled with this as a child, but I got better through my training as an actor, obviously, and through social training that my mother was very hands-on with over the years. Eye contact is definitely one that's something that I feel you can get better at with practice. And I had teachers growing up, even in high school, and my vocal coach from high school used to make me practice eye contact with her. So that's at least three solid ones right there at the top of my head right there for characteristics right there that are common amongst all of us.
Okay, so I'm going to move on and switch gears a little bit. Now, the main focus of the documentary, you, George, you were bullied severely and you wanted to be an entertainer more than anything from a young age. Now, being an entertainer to me means being immersed and giving to the public, especially with like stand up and one man shows. You are in it with, with movie acting and commercials, you can be hid away in a little room. You're not exactly immersed, but for your theater. You were in it, and you're in a population that bullied you. So it seems that many members of public teased and tormented and ridiculed you. So how does that, I guess, interact with the desire to entertain members of the public after this string of negative experiences with the public?
I talk about this in my one man show, and I will confess that when I was younger, especially in my years of youth, it did start out as a form of seeking validation and wanting to be accepted and wanting to be liked and wanting to be loved by everybody. And I thought as a kid, well, maybe if I grew up and became a star, then everybody would love and accept me. And what this documentary shows is that what started out as the quest to become a star ended up becoming something so much bigger because what this show really did, and as Jules captured beautifully on film, is this film this show just this story just ended up touching so many different people on the autism spectrum, mothers and fathers of children on the autism spectrum. I've had countless experiences where I've had mothers come up to me on the merge of openly weeping just to say, my son is on the spectrum. You just told his story. And that to me has honestly made all of this honestly worth it. Now, whether I amassed any kind of fame or fortune in my lifetime and in my career in the arts, that's not up to me. I'm doing everything I can on my part. But at the end of the day, regardless of how little or how much I have, this is a story that I'm thrilled is still going to live on in the forms of a documentary feature film. And that was thanks to Juliana Brudek right here.
Yeah, yeah, definitely very helpful. Something I think a lot of people can learn from and relate to. And my stepbrother is autistic and different. We're all very, very different. But what I found is a lot of his expressions, the reactions are just extreme versions of like normal or neurotypical people. So it's like, maybe extreme anxiety over something or obsession over what could happen if I do this, if I do that, the what if game. So a lot of people can relate to that are maybe theater actors or regular actors that have never even thought of where they fall on the spectrum. You're like, oh yeah, I do this too. And there's different ways to manage it, whereas other people might not think of it. Anyway, switching gears, totally different question. All right. So you were working on this one-man show for the 2017 Hollywood French Festival. And in the documentary, it shows that your director seems like suddenly became unavailable and you had to skip up and end that production. So people, generally this happens. People start productions and then commonly there's some type of disagreement or lack of meeting of the minds occurs. And then it becomes clear that these two co-producers are not speaking the same languages and you're making the partner creation endeavor extremely difficult. So I'm surrounded by all types of people, and many are not neurotypical, falling into the highly sensitive person or the autism spectrum. And it seems many musicians, I say this is my assessment, their first language is music with the English language and the constructs of time holding totally different meanings than non-musicians. This is just something I've come across. So question, how does a person with Asperger's connect and get on the same page as others with differently functioning brains? And two-part question. What gets in the way of connecting? What helps build the deeper connections that last?
Well, I think the number one thing is the word misunderstanding. I think
Hmm.
that's the root. I think that's the root that causes a lot of our issues in terms of connecting with people who are neurotypical. And I think
Yeah.
you see that beautifully displayed in this documentary all throughout that things often
Yeah.
start with a misunderstanding. And so that's definitely, I would say, the root of it. I think just the key thing I would stress to anybody in any relationship is the importance of communication. And if it wasn't for the arts, whether it was television, movies, or music, I taught myself how to sing by matching pitch with any singer I heard on the radio.
Hmm.
I taught myself how to connect with other people by watching what I watched on my television, whether it was a movie or a TV show. When I was developing this show, I didn't work with a guy because there was a little too much money there involved when I was looking around for different directors. But when we were talking about working together, he was like, "Oh, you had to act. This wasn't a
Hmm.
this wasn't a desire or a want. You had to act. This was going to be your way to connect with the world. This was going to be your way to understand empathy and social skills and some of the things that were unfortunately going to be missing from my natural wiring as a human, but at least they were skills that I could acquire through studying and learning about the craft of acting. I get nervous when I drive through certain states in this country like Texas, and I see billboards that say we cure autism.
Uh,
And that makes me a little nervous because I start to feel like not only as somebody who is autistic, but somebody who is LGBTQ, I hope they're not bordering on abusive, conversion therapy
right.
type practices here with these poor autistic children. And I want to stress to everybody that no, autism is not something that you are formally of. It's not something that you can cure. It's always going to be there. I just feel like, yes, you can get skills and you can get help and
Hmm.
lessons
Hmm.
along the way where you can improve upon it and make it much better to the point where maybe it's not as noticeable as maybe it once was when I was younger. But it's never something that's officially cured. So I get worried when I drive through certain states and I see
Hmm.
billboards like that. So.
I've never seen a billboard like that, but I also don't really look at the billboards. Maybe I should. I think that would tell me what's going on in the world. Yeah, very, very interesting. What states are this? What states?
I saw this sign in Texas, so
Texas. Okay.
that's why I'm glad that with Jules's help here, we're getting you can only do so much with a one man show with limited budget. But now that we have a
Hmm.
documentary, we're hoping this can reach so many more masses of people
Hmm. Hmm.
and show
Just
people that yes, this is something that you have and you can live with and it's
right,
doable. It's not something
right,
you can
right.
cure, it's not something you can fix, but it's something that you can still live your life and go out and achieve any dream you want to, no matter how big or how small it is.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely. So kind of similar question now. The musicians and producers Penny and Crystal Wilson, they worked with some of the top performers, including Barry White, and they even opened for Rick James. They directed George, through your journey to create your one-man show and guide you through countless performances. So these women seem very strong-minded with real experience. And when you have that real experience and you're strong-minded and you're confident, sometimes they'll make comments that um, they're from a different perspectives than you have because you don't have their experience. You can't possibly have their level of confidence either because you haven't gone through all of the tests and testimonies that they have. So some of their comments were misinterpreted and conflicts occurred due to seem like, as you said, misunderstandings, just varying perspectives. So, what are some things that you learned from solving some of these many conflicts and being guided by such seasoned professionals?
Well, I think the number one thing I learned throughout whether it was making this show or making this documentary is whenever Jules and I go to screenings and talk about this movie at Q&As, I think the main message that we get that's so universal that goes beyond autism here is the show must go on. No matter how many obstacles are thrown in your way, no matter what is no matter what's thrown at you at the last minute, unexpected, because that's going to be a metaphor for all things in life, is that no matter what, we all have to get up the next day because all of our individual shows that we all experience as human beings are all going to go on while we're here.
And
Yeah.
I would like to jump in here, Dr. Feldy, and say that from my point of view, watching these three performers, I'm somebody that's been on the other side of the camera.
Hmm.
So we have two neurotypical performers, which are Penny and Crystal, who have worked through, they were in the DC sound movement with Capitol Records in the 70s. They came here to get a Motown contract. So they've experienced all the highs and lows, as you've said, of being in the industry. And then they're helping George, and then George is doing his own thing. But to watch each lane, and what I saw with George is that idea that the show must go on. And I have a
Hmm.
joke like, I don't know if you remember Pinkberry, that yogurt place. I loved their yogurt, but they only had
Hmm.
they eventually added many more flavors, but they had one, and they did the original yogurt flavor so well. Well, I watched George be very hyper focused on just making sure the show that he was currently doing was the best it could be. So he wasn't worried about getting somewhere else with an acting career. He wasn't worried about, getting this done over here. He was just
Hmm.
focused on it. And I see that with performers all the time at being a director. I see that they're doing this play over here, then they're going to all these auditions over here. It's scrambled, it's chaotic. He was able to just put all into one,
Hmm.
and that hyper focus is so important. He had the best
Hmm.
berry on the market.
Hmm. Nicely said. Nicely said. So this one's gonna have to be real quick because we're actually at time. So I guess like a 30-second answer here. But originally it seems like George wrote like a 4-hour show and Penny and Crystal were like, no, you gotta cut it down. And it seems like, if you're a seasoned performer and you're successful, you generally know when to raise your voice, work the stage, when to be a kid, when to be a man, when to change your words. Um, and a lot of entertainers just don't understand what I call how to seduce or the art of seduction. So, simple question, can humans be taught how to seduce an audience?
I'd say yes. It's not gonna come easy. Like most things in life, it's gonna take skill, and in order to gain skill, you have to practice. So yes, I believe I learned from doing the one man show because this was the first time I was doing a solo show completely by myself. It's up to me to carry the show and some offstage
Mhm.
voices and some backing tracks for when I sing. Other than that, and costume changes. Other than that, it's me out there carrying the whole show. So yes, I learned, yes, you have to focus in on the audience and you have to make sure you have the audience right where you want them. That way they can laugh. That way they can cry with you. That way you go out there every night, and this is for anybody doing a one person show. You go out there every night going, okay, I'm in charge of this roller coaster ride that we're about to go on. It's my responsibility that I go through this and take you all right there with me. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
yes, I believe that through practice, you can easily seduce the audience and bring them with you wherever you want them to go.
Through practice, something I never really did when I did stand up. And on that note, please give us your socials, websites, handles, Instagram. Where can listeners and viewers find you?
You can find me on Instagram at George F. Steeves, GeorgeFSteeves. And please make sure to follow our movie's Instagram page. It's at My Life with Asperger's, the movie.
Nice. All right, Juliana, anything?
I'm at Jules Victoria, JulesVictoria, and I would love you to let me know how you felt about the film and George's journey.
Definitely, I really enjoyed it. I don't want to out people I know, but there's different people I know and work with. I do so many commercials and short films and movies, and getting another input into just the reminders. I would say I don't know if there's anything that was really new to me because I'm 40 and I analyze people my entire life, but just being reminded that everyone's brains can work the opposite ways. I mean, my mom and I are almost like polar opposite. computers, operating. If I'm a Kia, she's, a Hyundai, like we are from different planets. So she would actually maybe fall into some of these categories, but it's a really good reminder whether you work in construction or filmmaking or makeup or you're a tennis instructor, you're a mom, I just want to be a good neighbor. Keep in mind that we all think differently, faster, slower, tunnel vision, grander vision. And if you can keep that in mind in every single interaction, I think that life goes a lot more smoothly. So I guess that's one of my biggest takeaways. And also to have empathy because, different people are more sensitive or more reactive than others. So if we can have that empathy and understanding, things can go smoother. And also to try to keep things not from going and bubbling over too much, or if someone does bubble over, to have some tools to figure things out when someone does have an extreme reaction. On that note, we are way over time, but I just wanted to pay my respects. I really think you did a great job. Thank you so much for doing this. This is a great tool, learning tool for everyone in the world to see. So I hope everyone views this film. I think if I were making school curriculum, I would put this in a school curriculum because I think that if I saw this in middle school or high school, I would probably be a lot kinder and easier to deal with person in my 20s when I didn't know these things. So on that note, thank you so much for
Thank you
spreading the
so
word.
much. And for
I
any of you
will.
listeners
Sophie,
out
thank
there,
you.
and for any of you listeners out there, please log into Reverie TV. It's available to
Every
stream on
TV.
Reverie TV for free. Thank you so much.
All right. And now back to more Came from the Radio. Back to you, Mark Torres.